Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the one show, the only show, the premier show on the entire World Wide
Thanks.
Web. Where we talk about things like fantasy, sci-fi, movies, TV, books, um, robots, space lasers, swords, horses, women who draw from the primordial force at the center of the earth and use it to blast fun, colorful streams out their fingers. This is Take the Black. How are you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to talk about all those things you just said and more, like knights, like trials by combat, like maybe also some sorceresses. So yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm very good. How are you, Dan? And how is everybody in the chat? Nice to see you all in there today.
Totally. Hey, Robert. Hey, Alexander. Victor, Nicole, Ben, Yeenlin. Good to see you. So we have a pretty open program today. We're mostly going to talk about a lot of good stuff going on TV because there's quite a lot of it now.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you a little teaser. Everyone watching to blow your minds. Tomorrow, Thursday, March 20th, there are 2 episodes of TV going to drop for 2 different shows. And
Ooh.
I'm going to go ahead and say that both of them are the best episodes of those shows that have yet been produced. One is called The Wheel of Time, and the other is called Severance, and you're not ready for either of them. But I've seen them
Wow.
both because I am, very special.
Okay, so I know that we're not ready for the Wheel of Time, but you're talking up Severance too, and that's exciting because I've been I don't want to say my excitement's been middling. I've liked this season, but I'm ready for a finale that will blow me away. So that is exciting to hear because I have not seen it because I am not that special.
We can discuss that later, but first of all, let's start with Wheel of Time because this is a show we're
Yes.
really into. We've been enjoying it, and it feels like a lot of people are enjoying it too, which is what we're all hoping for.
Yes. Yeah, I saw a review today from Eric Kane at Forbes that
Ooh.
was shared around on Blue Sky, which I don't know if you're familiar with this dude, Eric Kane, Dan. He is a hater. He hates the things. And he's that one. I posted one of his reviews for The Witcher during season 3 where he was like, if only it was faithful to the source material. Then he complained about a bunch of things that were like straight out of the book. He even likes this season of The Wheel of Time. So it seems like even the hater critics are coming around pretty hard on this season because it's just good TV. It's hard to argue that it's anything other than good TV, really.
Well, what do you think is winning folk over? Because Wheel of Time had a bit of an interesting ramp up. First season was kind of a little wobbly. Folk were upset about it. Second season, I felt like it did have a better reputation. Why do
Yeah.
you think they're coming around now?
Well, I think that I think there are two reasons here. I think that for a lot of the hardcore book reader peeps, which the one I just referenced is not one of those. He has not read them all. But I think for a lot of the most hardcore book cloaks or whatever we want to call them, people who are like,
Book cloaks.
yeah, it's a play on white cloaks, but with the books. Um,
Oh,
People
okay.
who
I
are
can get into
very
it.
upset anytime there's any change. I think this is the most I want to say faithful, even though it does make a lot of changes still. I think it's the most recognizable.
Sure.
Like if you look at the books and then you look at this season, it is the most recognizably similar season of any of them. But I think that it goes deeper than that because I think there are a lot of people who haven't read the books who are falling in love with the show, who are all about this
Dope.
season. And I think that really started with like in my opinion like late in season 2, like halfway through season 2. I felt like there was a palpable shift in like the general viewing crowd's
Mhm.
excitement for this show, and I think they've run with that. So I think season 3, like the production values are better,
They
the
are.
writing is better, the acting, like the actors have been living in the characters longer, so they all are just way more natural at what they're doing. The locations are amazing. Like that's a thing this show has that a lot of other big fantasy shows are struggling with or can't compete with because they film so much in studios or on one or two expansive sets. Like House of the Dragon is not a globe-trotting story, it's a drama that has mostly been in a few specific locations. And the Wheel of Time, we haven't even seen a lot of the locations yet this season. They're coming in future weeks, but it just has a gorgeous location photography. So I think there are a lot of reasons, is the answer to that. Do you think there's any one specific thing, or why do you think it's winning people over at this point?
I agree with the commenters that say that Victor says the look of it leveled up. It's not just glossy, it
Yeah,
doesn't look like theme parks anymore, which is true. It does look
totally.
more lived in and believable. And I can't tell if that's just me getting used to it or if it's they actually upgrade, which I think they did actually upgrade. They like have some new camera stuff. It just does look
Yeah,
more. They found their footing. Somebody talked about John that Jordan's first few books were a mess anyway. Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. I don't know if I would go that far. I do think reading the Wheel of Time books, you can see the author kind of figuring things out as he goes a bit. I don't
totally.
think they are as tight as or as comprehensive as the later ones are.
Yeah.
And the show had all of them to draw from right at the beginning, but there's also a sense of the show kind of finding its footing and gaining confidence as it goes on. This isn't being the most confident yet, which again is
Yeah,
why we're all hoping and praying that it continues. Because now that they've
totally.
really gotten on a track, I'm down to see this through to the end. Mainly, what clicked for me was there was always a sense in the show. I don't know how to put my finger on it. In the last two seasons, less so in season two than season one, that the characters in specific were not quite cohering for me as real people and a real set of folks who had real relationships and likes and dislikes and all of those things make a human being, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And it just feels different this year. I think starting off with everyone together, it's from the books, but it's a really good choice. So we get a sense of who they are, what they mean to each other before they split up and go off separate journeys. Um, Again, having a character like Matt is great because he can actually make jokes and add another level to it. Not
Yeah,
everybody is dour all the time, always.
totally.
And there's a looseness that I like. I'm always going to go for Matt. I liked like a silly scene like Matt being frustrated in his room alone in Tarvalon while Galad and Gawain go to Pound Town on all the novices in the White Tower in the rooms above him, and he can say, like, that's Gawain, that's Galad.
Yeah.
Like it just adds a maybe juvenile but still believable level of, I don't know, relatable TV comedy that I recognize and I like, and it makes me sympathize with them. And
Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. Like the show has more levels this year, and I appreciate levels.
Yeah, I agree with that. It does have more levels, and I think it's important for these characters to feel like real people. And that small example, like those small moments are what does that, I think. Um and Matt's like the perfect example of that because that is what he's all about. Like Matt is the person in this equation who I love the so this is we're going to be talking full spoilers for the first 3 episodes here. So if you care about that, you don't want spoilers, I don't know what to tell you. Why are you here? But we are
Whoa.
going to be talking a little bit about
Confrontational.
no, not confrontational, just watch the show. Watch the show,
Daniel
then
Roman
watch our
hates
show.
the watchers.
I hate to spoil our watchers. But yeah, so there is a scene with Matt that is taken directly out of the books. I think it's the third one, maybe,
Yeah.
where Sawan takes the horn from him. I don't remember if she takes the horn from him in the book, but her whole speech about her uncle and how he was a layabout who liked gambling,
Rude.
but he died running into a burning building to save kids, and he wouldn't stop until he got the last one out. And then like, will that be you, Matt? Are you like him? And Matt being like, I'm no hero. I just do what needs to be done. And Sawan is like, well, that's what all heroes do. They just do what needs to be done. Like that is directly out of the book, but that's also like the exact sort of quiet little character moments we've really needed where it's like Matt isn't, I don't want to say an everyman because he's ridiculous. He's got past life memories that are making him
Sure.
super skilled and whatever. But like, that's the tone of Matt, is a dude you could find yourself in a bar with. And yeah, I think season 3 is nailing so much of that stuff. Like the characters. So the episode coming this week, which we will not spoil, but it is a big episode for Yosha Stradowski in particular as Rand. This is his season, and this week is like his episode where it's like this dude has clearly leveled up as an actor. So yeah, I think, I know I'm prone to hyping things, but I think that the Wheel of Time, like, it's hard for me to imagine. I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna end up being one of the best fantasy shows of the year. Like, I have no doubt.
Oh,
I think
sure.
it's just way better than the previous seasons and most seasons of most of the fantasy show. Like, thinking of
You've
like
gotten
Rings of
recently, yeah.
Power and The Witcher. Like, I know House of the Dragon second season had some amazing episodes, but was overall divisive. I don't see this being divisive by the end. I think people will have some complicated thoughts, but like, it's a good season of TV.
Well, okay. Let me interrogate that for a second, because I agree. I agree. It's really, really good. It's, but dare I say, becoming a rich text, because we have things like the middle-aged woman battle royale at the start of the season, where it's all special effects and it's getting cut in half, and things blowing up, which is great and awesome. Channeling looks really good this year,
It
and we have
does.
the smaller character moments with Matt and stuff. We have the comedy. We have, like, again, lots of different levels, which is nice. We have, as Victor says, like, different people going on stories that we can actually remember week to week. It does all seem to be
Yeah.
cohering nicely.
Yeah, totally.
Speaking about the changes and some of the things that might get controversial, we've talked about adaptation before. I guess my
Mhm.
question is, and I have a follow-up, don't worry. Like, how do you know when you've gone too far? How do you know when you've adapted something in a way that kind of that goes over the line that separates necessary changes done for the sake of telling a story in a new medium, and then
Mhm.
goes over into gratuitous changes that are done seemingly for not a good reason beyond the writer wanted to do them? And was the thing of the first episode one of those changes where Moiraine, in the first episode, Moiraine and Lanfear work together to basically attack the Four Rivers crew in an attempt to drive them apart? Because in the book, that does not happen. In the book, they are attacked, but it's kind of just because the one power moves in mysterious ways. It's not done by Lanfear and Moiraine working together. It's not done by Lanfear, not done by Moiraine, not done by either of them. But the show
Yeah.
changed it so it's an intentional thing to drive them apart because Moiraine wants Rand thinks that Rand friends being around him might take him away from her. She wants to be the one to influence him.
Yeah, I think that it is tricky, because so I don't mind this change because I think Moraine, we don't really get her perspective in the books. There's always this feeling of, can anyone actually really, like, how trustworthy is Moraine, because she's always playing her cards close to her chest. She's always perfectly willing to manipulate people, and this story in particular, The Shadow Rising, is all about that push and pull with her and Rand, which I think the show is
True.
doing a good job with. Of the power dynamic is flipping, where Rand is now a little more comfortable in his role. Moraine still wants to manipulate him, but he is just not having it because he doesn't need her quite as much as he did in the past when he was a helpless farm boy with no defenses against the shadow and whatever. Um, in terms of the working with Lanfear, again, there are just times where Moraine comes out of left field and it's like, how did she learn XYZ thing? We never really find out. The third book has her use this magic called Balefire that we haven't seen yet in the show, um, where she toasts one of the Forsaken, kills them. This has not happened in the show. I kind of doubt it will happen because that
No,
Forsaken
they're
is
gonna
a
cut like that.
very cuttable Forsaken. Um, but that's the thing where it's always like, how did she learn this forbidden weave? We have no idea. I don't think a Forsaken taught her, but it's just a good example of like, Moraine has secrets. Full stop. She will always have secrets. Um, and with Lanfear, there is a push and pull of whether characters can work with Lanfear or not. Not Moraine, but like Rand has some moments where he kind of does things with Lanfear's help. And I think the show has had to kind of like condense that idea, speed up that idea. So like, I like the fact that even though Moraine is working with Lanfear, it is, Lan's there telling her this is a stupid idea. I don't like it.
Mhm.
So there's that side. I think the other side of that is, if they didn't do that, they had to explain what bubbles of evil are. And I don't think that's a concept the show has gotten into, because so for people who are just watching the show, bubbles of evil are essentially like random chance bad shit happens moments where the pattern distorts around, the pattern being like fate distorts around our characters, and bad magical things can happen, like an axe flying around and trying to chop Perrin into bits. The show, instead of going with that, like, I don't want to say it's silly because I love me some Wheel of Time, but it's a less believable thing. I think viewers would have probably responded worse to that than just like, hey, these two women we know are very manipulative, have a manipulative idea because they want to manipulate the Dragon Reborn. So did that, like, was that a breaking moment for you, Dan? Like, because
No,
I really did not mind that at all.
It wasn't a breaking moment. I did remember the evil bubble thing. And when it started, I was like, oh, evil bubbles.
Yes.
And then I was learned, oh, no, they're going a different way from it. I don't think it crosses the line, but I do think it's something that could be legitimately talked about by, reasonable people. I think it's an example of one of the things that might go up to it. I think they could have done evil bubbles just fine. I liked the evil bubbles.
Probably.
But no,
I mean, I never
not a
minded
break,
the evil
but I'm
bubbles.
just wondering where the break might be, if there's going to be one. And I don't think there will be, unless Amazon forces it, because I said this before too. It does feel like the showrunner, Rafe Judkins, genuinely likes the material. You can kind of just feel it when you're watching something. And it feels like I felt like he always had the love, and now he has more the know-how. He had to kind of get up to that point, but the affection was never really in question.
Yeah, and I think so. The point we're at too. So books 4, 5, 6 are kind of like the pound for pound cleanest, best, most adaptable books of the saga. I think like each one of them ends with like a monumental bang, to the point where like I think if they get to keep going, they will do the end of book 5 in season 4. They will do the end of book 6 in season 5, and then they'll have to figure out what the hell they're going to do after that. So I think that there's also an element of like, now they're at the nice, fairly clean part of the story, because as I think John Thomas said, like, not that the first 3 books are a mess necessarily, but they're like you said, Dan, you can feel that Robert Jordan was kind of finding his footing, and in The Shadow Rising, he has found it. Sure. I think for me, so I agree with what you said about like the love for the material being there. And I think that is why, that combined with the fact that the Wheel of Time is 15 books, 14 books and a prequel, that they are trying to adapt in 8 seasons, it is just no question they will have to change a lot to do that. So it always gets grace from me because of that, and because of what happened with Matt's original actor, that they basically had to rewrite large swaths of season 1 and 2. It always gets grace from me there. But I think that in terms of changes from the source material, the reason that the Wheel of Time works, that it has never felt a bridge too far for me, is because it's
too far.
Yeah. It always feels like they are rooted in the material in some way. They're doing it because they have a long game. Like, we haven't talked about it a lot, but there's foreshadowing for stuff from the very end of the series that's already in the show a lot. Cool. Where it becomes a bridge too far for me, I have 2 very specific examples of this. So like The Witcher season 2, they basically said, we didn't think this book was very compelling or would be very fun to watch, so we made up our own story instead. And then they backtracked in season 3 and put like 2 of the big events that they cut, that were like big events from that book that they said they didn't want to adapt. They plugged them back into the show because it turns out they were actually pretty good. So I think that's a good example. Like, I don't think this source material is good enough, so I'm not going to bother with it, is to me a bridge too far. And I think the other example that comes to mind, even though I liked parts of this, is Daemon Targaryen in House of the Dragon season 2, where Ryan Condal, the showrunner of that show, basically, he talks about it as his paradise lost with Daemon Targaryen. And it's like, that's cool, but that's not relevant to the story whatsoever. Like, that's basically, you had a fun fantasy idea you wanted to do and said, hey, I could do it in this show, instead of like telling the story that the show was that the book was telling the story is about. So I think those are some examples of like a bridge too far in my mind. It's kind of when the material's thrown out because they don't want to bother with it or don't think it's good enough, versus we need to change things because that's the only way to make this work on television.
Yeah, I mean, my example of House of the Dragon is always going to be Alicent and Rhaenyra being enemies in the book and then working together into the show. Like, if you're doing the opposite of what the book says, I
Yeah.
think we can all agree you need to reconsider.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to change things or alter things or squeeze things, but you can't do the opposite. Then you're
Well,
not adapting the book.
well, let me make a counterpoint here using
Oh,
your favorite episode of television of all
we
time.
have to talk about this.
Bill
Okay,
and
good.
Bill and Frank. Bill and Frank from The Last of Us.
Ooh.
This is a good example of where they did the opposite. And I don't just mean that they showed Bill and Frank alive. Bill and Frank have a tragic ending in the video game. This is The Last of Us, the third episode, long time. In the video game, Frank tries to leave Bill, gets bit by a clicker, and then hangs himself. And you find this out later, and he like leaves a letter where it's like, you're the worst, Bill, I would do anything to get
I
away from
remember.
you.
Yeah.
And this is how it played out. So the show did like explicitly the opposite of that, where it gives them, it is a happy ending for Bill and Frank, even though
Sure.
they pass away. They do it together on their own terms. But that worked. Why did that work? And some of these other examples don't.
You don't think I have a counterpoint to your counterpoint?
Oh,
I do.
I love it. I was hoping you did.
Okay, the reason they can get away with that is twofold. The first fold is they just did a really good job of it. I guess I would qualify. If you do the opposite and it's awesome, then I guess you can get away with it. Dicey. But the reason they could do it with Bill and Frank, the second fold, is that Bill and Frank really aren't that important. Bill and Frank are side characters.
That's true.
You have more leeway here. If you're Alicent and Rhaenyra and you've made them the central characters, there's a lot more focus on that. And the risk that you do the opposite and get away with it is much, 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 much higher. The stakes are much higher. And the, I would say, necessity of sticking to the source material becomes much more pertinent.
Yeah.
The more important central art of the story. Bill and Frank, just, them hate each other isn't that important to the story of The Last of Us.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. It's not. So I think that is fair. And I think either way, they had, Bill and Frank's story is there to kind of drive home some of the realities of this world that Ellie and Joel live in. But the specific details of their story they're much more open to interpretation. And I think that is a good example of like, adapt this, make it as compelling as you can for good TV. But the overall arc of the thing is not going to change much. Bill and Frank are still, Bill doesn't actually technically die in the game, so you just leave him there. Sure. But presumably he won't last. So it's like, making a more conclusive dramatic thing. So yeah, I think that is a good point. I think that is totally fair.
The last thing I want to say is tomorrow, the episode of Wheel of Time, we can't say spoilers, but I think people are going to love it. I think people are going to really eat this one up, especially book fans. I think actually I'm most curious to see how people who haven't read the books react, because it goes so, again, no spoilers, but it goes so deep into the lore of the Wheel of Time world in a way that draws a lot from the book. Book fans are going to have like aneurysms of joy seeing some stuff on screen. It is also pretty esoteric and more experimental than most of the episodes have been so far, kind of full of visions and mystical things of that nature, which are totally Wheel of Time fine. They fit in this universe more than they do in, say, House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones.
They do.
I wonder if it might not be, I think it'll interest people who don't follow the books, but I think it might be harder to follow.
I think yes and no. I think it will be harder to follow in general, like to get all the details of, let's put it that way, because I think it does go deep into the lore, like you said. There are a lot of very lore specific details that are a part of that. But I think the premise of what the episode is something that is more broadly accessible than I think we maybe our gut is to give it credit for, having to do with Rand and his ancestry, we can say. So I think, yeah, I'm very curious to see how people react.
Me too.
I think it is arguably the best episode of the series to date.
It's the best episode of the series so far.
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and say that.
yeah,
Also,
I agree.
filmically, quite beautiful and really well
Yeah,
done, which, if it is a little confusing, can really pull you along. Like, I didn't understand everything that was happening, but it's gorgeous to watch. Very compellingly
yeah,
edited. So I was pulled along, no problem. I love
yes,
it, and I think I might rewatch it tonight so I can get
yeah.
ready.
Yeah, I won't lie, I've seen it a few times. It's a good episode. I can't wait. Can't wait for people to watch it. John Thomas has a pretty good example of, the sort of condensing the wheel of time maybe doesn't have to do, but it's prudent for them to do. So in the third episode, Lanfear pulls Rand into her dream. She says he pulled her into his dream. I don't buy that because it's Lanfear. She tells Rand her plan is to find a way to kill the Dark Ones so she can be free of her dark oaths. And she says there is
Oh, yeah.
a Sa Angreal, these are very powerful magical artifacts, that there are two. There's one for men and one for women. The one for men is Kalendor, which is the sword Rand left in the Stone of Tyr. The one for women is something called the Sarkonin. Um, and I don't believe the name Sarkonin is from the books. I may be mistaken.
I was
But
going to ask you, is that from the books at all? I don't remember it.
so there are this idea is from the books, but this specific thing she's mentioning is not. In the books, there's Kalendor, the sword, and then
Sure,
there
I
are
know
these
that.
other very powerful Cyangreal called the Choden Call, which it's basically a small little Buddha figure that when you channel into it, it taps into a massive Buddha figure that is half buried, that is filled with the one power.
Oh,
So there's
wow.
one of those for men and women. So there are three of these very powerful artifacts. They're not, the sword is not connected to the Choden Call, but all three of them are relevant at certain points. Ran ends up, if I remember right, with Kalendor and the Choden Call for men. So it's this, yeah, the face you just made. This is the perfect example of where they were like, we could just make this a little simpler for viewers and say there's
Uh-huh.
just these two things, and they do these two explicit things, and we don't need to explain that this little thing is connected to a big thing, and there's one of these for each of us, but also this other thing. So there's so much room for that sort of stuff in the Wheel of Time that I think, from an adaptation perspective, it's fascinating. I think it's a fascinating series to dig into that stuff with, more than most.
I like how we should move on, but I think Jordan was pretty good at making up all this language and stuff. They do sound nicely exotic in the mouth.
Yeah,
I don't remember half the words you just said, but I like the sound of them. And yeah, Julie, it's a good one. Check back next week. We'll talk about it. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts.
yeah.
Before we no,
Woo.
okay, scratch that. Let's move on to something else. Just watch tomorrow. You're gonna love it, and
Yes,
we'll talk about it later. What
yes.
else is
Come
going
back and
on,
comment
Dan?
tomorrow.
Yeah, what else is going
Oh,
down in the worlds of sci-fi fantasy movies, TV, swords, space lasers, knights, and magic ladies?
there are other things.
Yeah,
No. Yeah, apparently there are other things. Thank you, John, for shouting out. Apparently, the Sarkonnen is from a short story involving Dammon Dread and a Memory of Light. I need to go back and reread those. But anyway, we're moving out. We're moving out of Randland now to Westeros, because a behind the scenes picture has surfaced from a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Um, I This was posted on Twitter. I don't remember who by. I don't know if you remember, Dan.
I
House the
think
Dragons, maybe.
I think it was House of the Dragons. Yeah.
Um, so this is, it's hard to talk too much about this without getting into spoilers. This is a scene from late in the Hedge Knight, the novella, The Hedge Knight.
Mhm.
How much do we want to talk about spoilers here, Dan? Because you haven't read it. So how do you want to talk
Yes,
about
we can.
this? This is a very iconic scene from the book.
I don't think we need to say exactly what happens. This show is coming later this year. This new Game of Thrones prequel show based on the Hedge Knight, like you said. I know that this is the same as it looks like in the illustrations. This is our main
Yes.
character, Sir Duncan the Tall, on a horse, in some yellow armor with a helmet. I will say, because it's famous illustrations, it does kind of underline what we've heard about it being very faithful to the source material. It looks like they're trying to really translate Martin's prose accurately to the screen, which, I don't know. I think me and Martin have been on a fidelity kick lately, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is exciting. So this specific shot, again, this is the climax of presumably the season. So I don't want to talk about what it is, aside from to say this specific thing that is going down in this scene is a bit of lore that is in the Game of Thrones books that never actually happens. It's related to a certain type of trial by combat that never actually happens in the Game of Thrones books that we've seen so far, but it does happen in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be, I think, when Martin has said on his blog, like, they filmed a battle scene, or maybe it was Francesca Orsi from HBO. Someone said they filmed battle scenes that were just as spectacular as anything in Game of Thrones. And I rolled my eyes because there are no dragons, there are no armies or whatever in this. But when they say that, presumably the scene we're looking at here is the scene they're talking about, because it is the big climactic moment. Probably episode 5 would be my guess as to when we'll see this scene play out. Because it's only 6 episodes long. And yeah, Julie says it's about time you read Duncan Egg, Dan. Julie's calling you out in the comments.
I know, no, you're totally right. I just can't. I never find the right time. Like I'm not kidding. I'm making a plan to just do the entire thing this weekend. I want like the right environment. I don't know why I'm so picky about this.
You need mood candles and stuff.
I don't need mood. Yeah, I need to draw a bubble bath, put some candles on.
I mean,
I don't know. I've wanted the right environment, and I'm taking active steps to get it. And my tentative plan is for this week and just go through the whole thing. Because you're right, it's not long.
That's, I mean, yeah, just the Hedge Knight. You don't need to go into the Sworn Sword this weekend, but it is really like a 1 or 2 sitting read. Like it's fairly compact. It's only like 100 pages long, and it will pull you through because it is Martin writing well. You'll get the nice reminder of, yeah, this is what good George R.R. Martin is like, because it is a very good story.
Like, I'm not kidding. I did read the first few pages. And like, I was really enjoying it, and I like laughed out loud at a few jokes. And I was like, "This is too good. I shouldn't read this at like 11:30 before I go to bed on the couch, where it's like it's too cold in here. I need to have the right space, and I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
I'm gonna get it.
Okay. Well, I hope that you do. You deserve it, Dan. You deserve an evening with Sir Duncan the Tall and
Have you ever like played a really long video game and then you got near the end and you're like, and then you stop playing because if you keep playing, it means it's over?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel that way a little bit about this. I feel like might be the last George R.R. Martin thing I ever read, unless he releases The Winds of Winter. And but I will get on
he's got lots of other works that you could always hit up.
Sorry, I'll amend.
Fever
George
Dream,
R.R. Martin
which
thing
we'll
about
out
the
in a
Westeros
minute.
stuff.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair, and on the plus side, you can always stretch it out with the Mystery Knight. You can blast through the Hedge Knight. You can maybe dip your toes into the Sworn Sword, and then the Mystery Knight you can put off for like 3 years.
No, I'm not worried at all. Anyway,
yeah, I totally know the feeling you mean, and that is fair.
Because I do have something of a block. I won't deny it. I felt it. It's bizarre. Okay. Speaking of George R.R. Martin, he's been out there. We're not going to spend too long on this. He's been talking a lot about In the Lost Lands, that turd of a movie based on his show that came out a couple of weeks ago.
Short story.
Yes, based on his short story. And the movie itself, from what I didn't see it, but according to what I've heard, I don't think it's going to be winning any Oscars. But he has gotten to talk a lot and just kind of air some of his thoughts about things and stuff.
Yeah.
Such as talking about the Game of Thrones prequel shows. We know there were a bunch sort of in varying stages of development that may go forward, may not. And he's, pretty realistic about it, saying that, some have been put in the shelves. They might come back. They might not. Things in TV are never 100% dead. Nothing dies forever in television. which is again something we know. But so if anybody's holding out hope for a Jon Snow series just because the shelf doesn't mean they can't come back eventually, that's nice.
Yeah.
He really wants to adapt this novel Fever Dream he wrote before Game
Yeah.
of Thrones. Have you read that one?
I have Fever Dream. So he says, I think this is maybe his favorite child, talking about his books as children. Fever
Mm-hmm.
Dream, which he said until he started Game of Thrones was definitely the best of his preceding novels. Completely true. Fever Dream is a really, really good book. It's a standalone, like 300 or 400 page vampire novel set on the, like, in the Mississippi River 19th century steamboat era. And it's about this crotchety old steamboat captain named Abner Marsh who gets contracted to transport a spooky guy who mostly only comes out at night up and down the river on some secret mission, who we learn very swiftly is a vampire. And it's got like vampire politics. Like it is a George R.R. Martin story through and through. It's really, really good. So I'm not surprised to hear him say this because, like, you know, I'm pretty sure like Martin's company that he like runs a lot of his local businesses out of is like the Fever River Packet. It's named after this book. So
fun.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Fever Dream deserves it. Damn it. It is a great book, and it there are no spaceships, there are no aliens. They just need some steamboats. Do you think you'll ever read it?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Sounds good. I'm gonna read them. Then I'm probably gonna try and read the next 3 Body Problem book. See if
Oh, nice. What's that? The Dark Forest? I still need to read those.
It's a good title. No one cares what George R. Martin thinks anymore, so we can just skip to the next thing. But
wait. There's one thing I wanted to say for anyone who read this thing about Fever Dream that Collider wrote about this week because they're the ones who talked to him. He said he wrote a script for this with Disney that didn't go through. And he has the script back. He has the screenplay. He wants someone to adapt his screenplay. He doesn't want a new writer, which is funny, but he's in his old age. He's had a lot of adaptations, and this is obviously an important one to him. Fair. He said, we've had interest from at least 3 fairly major directors, 2 of whom I love, which, yeah, I think he said sorry to that 3rd director. Which is kind of
not quite on the level of the other 2. I love when people get old and they just say things that may be a little uncouth or maybe a little hurtful if you think it the wrong way. But I mean, who cares anymore? I'm sure that person will be fine, but it is funny. Like, we have 3 directors interested. 2 were good. The other one, I don't know. Like, if that person reads, I don't know who it is. Quentin Tarantino's like sobbing into his breakfast. It's very funny.
Yeah. So I did want to just mention that we do know who one of the ones he loves is, because he mentioned this during our interview with him last year. It's Guillermo del Toro. So
of course.
Yeah. So he has had meetings with Guillermo del Toro about making the Fever Dream movie, and they just haven't been able to make it work because Guillermo del Toro is always busy with other projects.
I feel like Guillermo del Toro has like a list of like 30,000 projects he started but didn't quite finish. Like, that guy is a long rap sheet. But man,
did you say Guillermo del Toro has that rep?
Yes.
Because that sounds shockingly like George R.R. Martin as well. So this sounds like a match made in heaven here.
Oh, it does. Whenever Guillermo does a movie, it's wonderful. He is basically my favorite movies ever. Yeah. I remember watching the Shape of Water in theaters and just being like, wrapped, shut up, couldn't tear my eyes away the entire time. I was remembering that one, the Oscar. That was a great one.
Yeah, I enjoyed his Hellboy movies too. They're the best Hellboy movies we've gotten, with Ron Perlman, who Martin wants to play Abner Marsh, Steamboat Captain, because he's even like, I would love Ron Perlman to play this part, is something he said. So yeah, I could totally see it.
Let's move on to what are we watching? Does we want somebody else to say about George R.R. Martin and such?
Nah, I don't think so. He empathizes with Frank Herbert. We don't have time for that, so you can go on winteriscoming.net and read about George R.R. Martin's thoughts about Frank Herbert and why George R.R. Martin and Frank Herbert are similar at this point in their lives. But yeah, here's the question, Dan, and all of you in the chat. Victor's already answering it. He's ahead of the game. What are you watching, reading, experiencing in this mortal coil?
And do you like it and why? I've been watching a ton, so I want to talk about this. I
Okay.
haven't gotten to Adolescence, even though I've heard great things about it. Victor's loving it. Um, I got all the Wheel of Time ahead of time, so I had to I like
Mm.
blitzed through that before they took it away. Um, okay, the Severance finale tomorrow. Again, I'm not going to spoil the actual details. I feel like I've liked the season more than other people have, perhaps because I'm reviewing it and I just get to sit with it and think about it. I think
Yeah,
there's a lot of great detail to find there. I think the finale will impress people. It
cool.
is Severance has this great mix of intense seriousness and complete goofy absurdity where it's like we're talking about this modern day slavery system basically, and the people are kidnapping women and putting them through horrible tests, but also you have watermelons shaped like John Turturro's head, and you go
Yeah.
to his funeral. That to me is like the quintessential Severance tone, and there was a lot of that in this finale. We're
Oh,
just like
nice.
the intense seriousness next to the utter absurdity. It is the surrealist show of our time. Is Severance? I think it makes good on a lot of big questions and a lot of good conflicts. The characters we like are back firmly in the driver's seat. I know that has been a bit of an issue this year, where
Yeah.
it feels like they've kind of gotten away from itself in some ways. It takes a big step forward, but not so big that I can't see like where a third season could go. I think it's
Okay.
perfect. It answers questions that you have, but it doesn't answer every question, so it leaves something open. And it's made gorgeously with a really deft touch for us, the dramatic and the comedic. I thought it was great. I think people are gonna love this. I really do.
Cool. That's exciting. So I've been kind of like in the middle of the road with Severance. I've really enjoyed some episodes. I've kind of liked other ones. I've generally struggled a little with the pacing of it in terms of when it's making promises and then kind of stringing us. I don't like when it feels like a show is holding back answers for the sake of holding back the answers. Like
Mm-hmm.
make it feel natural. So it really feels like this season of Severance is one of those seasons of television where the finale could really, solidify it as a really good season for people or frustrate them because, it's a mystery box show. So much
Sure.
hinges on what answers we get and what ones it holds back and how well that all works. So I'm excited by the things you're saying because I did like the last episode quite a bit.
Yeah.
Last episode I really enjoyed getting back to those main characters, especially Mark, because Mark's got interesting stuff going on. So I
This
want
is
to see
the
that.
finale is easily the best Mark episode in the series. He has some great
Whew,
stuff I did not see
okay,
coming, but that I've been waiting for a long time. But you only
that's
realize that
exciting.
once you see it, which I like.
Okay,
I have not seen
I'm
House of
on
David.
it.
We're talking about that. I haven't found time for that, but I hear that's really good too. It's definitely catching on in Prime Video. I think right now I want to see the Wheel of Time in the front spot. It's behind Reacher, which is also airing new episodes.
Yeah.
And then like House of David is like cropping up behind Invincible. Invincible was great too.
Oh
Last week, the
yeah.
finale, it was great. I I was a little more like you are with Severance on this season. I thought it kind of was a little, I don't know, low impact for a bunch of it.
Mhm.
And then the last two episodes of this third season, you can see, oh, okay, they were saving all the money and all the twists for these final two. I get it. Okay, you got away with it.
Yeah.
Fine, I'm cool with this. Because those last two were really excellent and exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, Invincible's one of those shows I keep meaning to start, and I haven't, and I need to because I like Robert Kirkman. I like the voice cast of that
Sure.
show. I like J.K. Simmons, but I just haven't quite gotten to it yet. But everyone I've s- talked to who watched the finale has been raving about it. So it seems like the finale really stuck the landing this season. Um, yeah, aside from so I am watching Severance. I've been deep into Wheel of Timeland because
Sure.
I'm reviewing it on the site. I've been writing about it a lot. So I have watched some episodes many times at this point and am really enjoying it. I'm in my glory here in Wheel of Time season 3. Um, I also watched the old movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan the Destroyer, which is the
Okay.
sequel to Conan the Barbarian.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen the original Conan the Barbarian movie, Dan?
Yes, I have seen both of these films.
Okay, so I had never seen the second one was just okay. The original, I was honestly pretty impressed. It holds up way better than I expected because it's
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
it's got a great villain performance from James Earl Jones. Arnold
Mhm.
Schwarzenegger's got like 10 lines in the whole movie. Like he really doesn't talk a lot, so it's like much artsier than you would expect because it's got a lot of just silent shots and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been fun to visit those. He punched a camel in the face in this movie and a horse in the face, so that was a good time.
And it's got Grace Jones in it.
Yes, yes. So yeah,
Yes.
um, that's mostly what I've been up to. Wheel of Time's just been it's been eating my television viewing hours. I did
There's
watch a
been a
little bit of Reacher too, which is not bad.
I yes, I actually watched a little bit of Reacher myself to just
Nice.
I got it. Everyone loves this. Why I need to check this out. I
Yeah.
thought it was I don't know. It wasn't I think we talked about it before. I thought it was okay. I'm not sure I'll keep watching.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife, she binge watched the first season in like a day, just like put it on in the background. So I've seen bits from the first and second seasons and have enjoyed what I've seen, but I haven't sat down and properly immersed myself in the Big Man Punches stuff show.
Dude
But I
is
do really
back.
enjoy the humor. I think the humor in that show is pretty fun. Um
I was
so
still
yeah.
mad at them for dissing the Ethel Merman disco record, frankly.
Man.
Some good comments, by the way, on Invincible. I do agree with Victor. Invincible would be an all-time classic if death wasn't so meaningless. It has serious
Mm,
superhero syndrome
that's a
where
problem.
if somebody dies, like, yeah, they ain't coming back, or they're coming back. Violence and gore ends up being just for the sake of its own spectacle. I kind of agree, but
Mm,
man, when they turn up the spectacle, I stop caring. Like
yeah.
these last two were such on a high level when it came to that spectacle. I didn't mind, but I do agree with you. It does play a little too fast and loose with death and life and the thing that superhero fiction does way too often, which is just somebody dies and then they just come right back.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of heroes, I've been enjoying Daredevil, Born Again. I've been
Oh
liking that
yeah.
too.
Man, I have decided I wasn't really interested enough to resubscribe to Disney Plus for it. So I have not watched it yet out of corporate angst. But so you're saying it's been pretty good. It's been worth it. Even with
Yes.
writing Karen and Foggy out in that first episode. You're on board
Yeah, I
still.
mean, that was funny. Yeah, like it's I forget the name. It's like Dario's got a something Italian. Seems like he has a vision, a direction. The character drama is definitely on, I would say, another level than most Disney Plus Marvel shows. It does seem like
Mm,
it's a carefully written and considered show. Like there's the
okay.
legal dimensions. It's held my interest. Um, it also I'm always nervous watching it because it does have the little like I don't know MCU ending esque teases that always makes me
Mm,
wonder: Are you stringing me along for some reason? But so far, it's paid off things. So I'm interested. Yeah,
cool.
I think it's well done.
Can I ask you, how do you think it holds up to the original seasons of Daredevil on Netflix?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I watched those, but it was years ago. I was a
Okay,
young
that's fair.
man in my I think it was in my 20s at that point. Um, it feels like it's about the same to me.
Okay, fair. I haven't I rewatched them. I don't remember when She-Hulk was on, I think was the last time I watched them because he was in that. Um
Oh, well, that doesn't. You're not counting that as original Daredevil seasons.
no, no, I'm saying that was my reason to rewatch it, knowing they were bringing him onto that show. I was like, okay, time to revisit Daredevil.
Gotcha.
But that's yeah, my big question with this new Daredevil show is how well it holds up because I think we're just in this era of diminishing returns with rebooting and extending franchises and stuff, and having Daredevil make the leap from Netflix, its very acclaimed Netflix seasons, to Disney Plus feels like it could be in danger of being the epitome of that. But I'm glad that you've been enjoying it
No.
so far.
Oh, there's so much worse than that. For this example, Daredevil at least will not be like Exhibit A when you go to show how shows shouldn't be rebooted. It might not get in
Okay.
Reboot Hall of Fame, but it's not. shaming itself by any means.
Okay, that's good. Good. Well, I'm happy for it. I always wish Daredevil was one of those shows that was like killed by mergers, kind
Yes.
of at its prime. It was one of those shows that got canceled through no fault of its own, kind of at the height of its
Yeah.
popularity,
Yeah.
and then Disney decided to consolidate its streaming stuff and not license to Netflix anymore. So that was unfortunate, and I'm glad that it is getting another run at life because Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin and Charlie Cox as Daredevil are
Very
just,
good.
yeah, they're so good in those roles. So yeah,
It is weird that Foggy and Karen are written out, but there's a really juicy role for the Kingpin's wife, Vanessa, who is like a smaller character on that show. But whatever, I buy it.
I mean
Um,
Vanessa was important in the original 3
yeah,
seasons
she was,
too.
but so were Foggy and Karen.
Were they? No, no, of course they were. That's sorry, Foggy and Karen, I love you. Yeah, no, obviously you're right.
Anyway, there's a ton of TV to watch. I've never watched it. I've never gotten around to it. Julie's watching that. I'm trying to watch The White Lotus, and I've had to like back up 3 episodes because I'm watching too much else.
Yeah, and it's wild to think that The Last of Us will be out in less than a month.
It is wild to think that.
Devil May Cry, which I know you are dying to watch, is out in
Yeah,
2 weeks.
You can go ahead and watch that one for me.
I will. I shall. I cannot wait. That's from the dude who made the first season of Castlevania. So
Andor's coming out next month.
what? Can that be true? Is that a
I think
true
it's
thing
like the
you just
later
said?
end of it, but yeah, there's way too much. Slow
Yeah.
down.
When do
But
these
at least
companies
it's
think
good.
we have time? It is our full-time job to watch and report on these things, and we don't even have time. When does the average viewer have time to watch all these shows?
I don't know. Why don't we try to condense the chaos and enormousness of life into several or 8 bullet points as we go through the WiC News Lightning Round? We look at some stories we couldn't get to the anybody of the show and give our 20-second opinions. That's how. You want to fit in all these TV shows? Just get the 20-second version of them. We're going to give you the 20-second versions of everything you need to know right now.
Nice. Well, the studios agree with you, except their version is 8-episode seasons. Let's do it.
All right. How should we start?
That is a great question. Why don't I ask you first?
Hit me.
Because I want to talk about Aaron Paul.
Oh.
So the new Percy Jackson show, it's been renewed for season 3. It got an early renewal. Season 2 is coming out in December.
Good for it. It's a bit aimed at people who are younger than I am, but it was good. It was nice. It was well put together, earnest, faithful, high-spirited youngsters fighting the power. Yay! I'm glad for the fans. We'll just wait for the buzzer to sound. There it is.
That was so good. The buzzer was miles off.
Hey, under time. Daniel.
Yes.
Breaking Bad veteran Aaron Paul, who also appeared in Westworld, is still hoping that they can make a 5th and final season.
Poor Aaron Paul. I mean, I would watch a 5th season of Westworld, but Westworld just, its viewership just declined season over season. And Aaron Paul kind of came on halfway through. It always felt like he was kind of left a little half finished. He didn't really get a full story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's unfortunate. Yumi and very few other people are waiting for that Aaron Paul. All right. Here's one. So Sadie Sink, that is Max in Stranger Things.
There you go.
There were rumors going around she was going to be playing Jean Grey in the X-Men in the MCU, and she said, quote, "It's news to me."
That's what I assumed that she would play when it was announced she was joining the Spider-Man movie. Like, okay, if they want to bring the X-Men, she has red hair, Jean Grey. And then you said, oh, she'll play Mary Jane Watson, Spider-Man's girlfriend. I'm like, wait, didn't they already have that? And you were like, no. Zendaya played some other person, also the initials MJ, who wasn't Mary Jane Watson. I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
End of comment.
Michelle Jones Watson. So the MCU does what it wants.
Famed fantasy author Brandon Sanderson named his 10 favorite video games, and his most beloved one, his favorite, is Civilization 6. What does that mean, Daniel?
So Civilization 6 is a builder game where you build up civilizations, go to war,
Right.
build, all wonders, all that sort of stuff. I think this is hilarious. One, his list is great. Go look at it. But I think
Mhm.
this is funny because his recent Cosmere books feel like a game of Civilization where it's all the worlds at different technology levels. So when I read that, I was like, of course Civ 6 is your favorite game, Brandon Sanderson. You see it in the books. Um, all right. From the Cosmere, we go to Narnia for this next one.
Good.
Yes,
Right.
Aslan's on the move, and so is Daniel Craig. He is reportedly in consideration for Netflix's Narnia movies, which I guess are going to start with The Magician's Nephew.
Yeah, which is the first chronological book in the series. I've read all the Narnia books. I know that
Mhm.
Magician's Nephew was written like later, but it is what happens first. And Daniel Craig could play the weird uncle who first makes a portal to Narnia. I think it sounds fine. I know that we had an editorial where one of a really good writer argued that it was a bad idea, but I don't really see it's a bad idea. Start at the start. Fine. Go ahead, Barbie girl. Greta Gerwig. Have
Yeah,
fun.
I trust Greta Gerwig. I think if she's doing it, it's for a good reason.
Sure. I didn't know this. Daniel, apparently Amazon Prime Video has greenlit its God of War TV show based on the popular video games for 2 seasons.
Yeah, so this is from an interview with Ronald D. Moore, who's the showrunner of it now after The Wheel of Time's Rafe Judkins left the production. Ronald Moore did Battlestar Galactica and Outlander. He's doing God of War. He just kind of casually dropped that Amazon had invested in 2 seasons of the show. So presumably that's the God of War reboot and God of War Ragnarok, the newest two. I doubt they're taking
Oh,
Kratos
sure.
back to
Yeah, yeah,
Greece.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how that goes. This is a cool one. So HBO is launching an ASL version of The Last of Us. Coda star Daniel Durant will interpret.
Yeah, so okay. Apparently, The Last of Us games are very keep deaf people in mind with a lot of like kind of physical movements to kind of signal things. And this new version of The Last of Us Season 1 will have this actor in the corner doing ASL sign language throughout the entire thing,
That's
which
cool.
is cool. Yeah, that they're making efforts to broaden the appeal to lots of different kinds of audiences. Good for them.
Yeah, that's especially cool because there was a deaf character in the show who was not deaf in the game. They added that, so
Oh,
um,
right. Okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah, makes
okay.
sense on multiple levels there.
And finally, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Dan, because you hate
Oh,
Severance so much,
I do.
but Severance has
I
now
hate
become
Lumen.
sure you do. Good save. But Severance has now become the most popular show on Apple TV Plus, surpassing even your beloved Ted Lasso. You
Um,
Jason
I,
Sudeikis
I
stain.
mean, I like Ted Lasso. I haven't seen the newest season, but if I had to choose between Ted Lasso and any sci-fi fantasy show, I would say bring on the sci-fi fantasy. So good for you, Severance. Teach Apple TV what the people wants so we can get more of it. Thank you for your service at Lumen, where the work is mysterious and important.
And that's our show. Thanks, everybody. Check back in next week, Wednesday, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're talking about all things sci fi, fantasy, movies, TV, books, etc. Julie saying nothing good is my pick of the head tonight. I have a vague plan. We'll see if it goes through. I'm gonna read it. It might not. Hopefully, it'll be next week. We'll see.
There's pressure here. People
Um,
want to hear your thoughts, Dan.
Thank you for keeping me honest. Also, subscribe. Like, comment. You're already doing that. If you enjoyed our show, and if you didn't enjoy our show, you know what? Go ahead, like, subscribe, and comment anyway. I'll remove the tyranny of choice from your life. It's really easy. All you gotta do is like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video with, your parents, your brothers, your friends, your priests, whoever you can, until we have 100,000,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching. Glad you're here. Enjoy your afternoon, your night, or your morning, whatever it happens to be. And we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.
All right, take care.